Welcome to the Daily Tanya. Today is Monday, the 27th day of Menachem Av. And we continue chapter 7, letter 7 in Igeret HaKodesh. And let's begin with tzedakah. Gedoyle tzedakah, shemekareves es hageula, tzedakah brings Mashiach closer. And yes, this letter also talks about tzedakah. And the Alter Rebbe speaks about planting tzedakah. Zeireya tzedakahs. And he asks the question, why is the giving of tzedakah compared to planting? The Alter Rebbe went into the whole explanation why we give tzedakah before prayer. And we discussed it yesterday. What is the connection between prayer and tzedakah? And we explained that prayer is not just something you come to ask from Hashem. Prayer is an opportunity to connect to God. So yes, indeed, we come and ask also for our needs during the prayer. But Hashem gives us needs because He wants us to pray. I'll say, just tell us about the matriarchs that He could not have naturally children. And the reason why God made him that way is because God wanted him to pray. Because the prayer is the opportunity to connect to Hashem in the most internal way. And this is the verse that says, Ani b'tzedek echeze panecha. I see your face with tzedek, with justice, or tzedek comes from the word tzedakah. What is I see your face? During the davening, I come to see Hashem's face, meaning the inner connection that we have. The face is the panim, represents the inner part of the person. So during davening, we have the opportunity to connect to Hashem in a very internal way. But this is why, to the Alter Rebbe, we give tzedakah, because that ability to connect to Hashem is really something that only Hashem can do. We cannot do it on our own. It is a chesed. It is a kindness of Hashem. Hashem gives the kindness. This one of the attributes of God is the kindness. So if this is the kindness, then why do we have to work for it? If God is kind, He's going to give it to everybody. And the answer is, we need to work for it because there is attributes of kindness of Hashem. But that kindness of God, if it comes down the way it is, no one will be able to survive. It is too intense, too powerful. And for that reason, God has also the attribute of judgment, severity. And once that attribute is introduced, then the judgment judges whether the person deserves it or not. And that is why when we give tzedakah, we do something, we act kindly to people, to others who don't have on their own, that triggers the kindness of Hashem to us. That we finished yesterday. Then we concluded yesterday with a question. And the question was that the kindness that God gives us during the prayer is totally unproportional to the kindness that we do. It is the light that we have of Hashem in this world, the tshuva, good deeds that we do in Hashem in this world, which Hashem gives us the opportunity during the prayer. This is something which the entire world to come cannot be compared to that. And the question again is, how is it that our little act of charity can cause such a tremendous and unbelievable amount of kindness from Hashem? And this, the Alter Rebbe begins to answer today with explaining the use of the words, using the words of planting, the term planting, when it comes to tzedakah. Zeireya tzedakah is planting tzedakah. So if the verse uses the term planting, that means that planting planting of a seed, sowing of a seed, planting of a kernel. That is really compared to tzedakah. So for that reason, the Alter Rebbe says, let's analyze what is planting. So when you plant a seed in the ground, what happens? You take, so the Alter Rebbe says there is 3 types of planting. There's a planting of a seed, like wheat. There's the planting of vegetables. And there's the planting of a tree, of a kernel, taking a kernel and growing a tree. The planting of a seed, let's say, a seed of wheat, you take the kernel of the wheat and you plant it in the ground, what happens? The same kernel grows, but the quantity is way beyond and above what you planted. So the quantity is bigger. The quality is the same thing. You plant a kernel of wheat, and that's what grows. When you plant vegetables, it's already a different level. You're planting a seed, and then a vegetable, a cucumber grows. The cucumber is not like the same as the seed of the cucumber. There's taste, there's different texture, satiates. So it's not only in quantity, but also the quality. The quality is different. It's not what you plant. And then when you have the planting of a seed of a tree, there it's even a whole different level. Because you plant just a little seed in the ground, and then it grows a whole tree. And not only does it grow a whole tree, but unlike the vegetables that you have to plant every year, this tree keeps on giving and giving, plants more and more, and grows every year. So the question says, the Alter Rebbe says, what is it that makes it grow? What is it that makes it grow? You're planting just this little seed, and then an orange grows. It has different taste, a different texture and smell, and all of these good things. The qualities, is it included in the seed? You don't see it in the seed. But Alter Rebbe says, really what happens, he says, when God created the world, he created within the earth the ability of growing, the power of growth. Koach HaTzameach, he says. And that is there in potential to grow all types of fruits and vegetables and everything. However, what you need is to plant something, a seed, and the seed goes into the ground and it rots, and it triggers the recipient. The seed triggers the recipient to receive that power of growth and growing a similar vegetables or fruit. So it is the seed that is planted in the ground, and it decays. And then, by decaying, it triggers that power of growth. That is, he calls it the power of the receiver that triggers the power of the giver. This is a concept that is true in many, many areas. For example, when you teach someone, you have a student and you have a teacher. The teacher still teaches the student. The teacher can just teach, but if you're sitting in front of a student and the student shows interest, that itself, that interest that the teacher detects in the student, triggers within the teacher a bigger ability, a better ability to teach. It is true with relationship with husband and wife. When the wife shows interest, that triggers also the interest of the husband to give. And this is true throughout. And the same thing is true, says the Alter Rebbe, here in the growth of the tree. This is the planting of the seed, and the decaying is the triggering of the interest of the recipient, the tree, which triggers the giver of the Koach HaTzameach, the power that God planted into this earth to be able to grow the tree. You see how the Alter Rebbe takes a very simple verse and analyzes it in the way of Chabad, understanding in order to understand the depth of it. And this is the way the Alter Rebbe teaches us what it means, the tzedakah. He's going to teach us that a similar thing happens when you give tzedakah, that is able to trigger the power of the giving in Hashem. So let's see inside. This is the Alter Rebbe. Al derech mashal, the above concept, however, can be understood by the analogy of sowing seeds of grain or planting kernels of fruit. The shoot that sprouts from the seed and the tree with its fruit from the kernel, it says, they are not the very essence and being of the seed or the kernel at all. Because their essence and being has been spent and is decayed in the soil. And they are thus not the source of the vegetative property. What is it then that makes it grow? The Alter Rebbe explains, or a different version, it is the vegetative property in the soil itself, rather than the particular vegetative power that resulted in the seed or the kernel, which brings about the growth of the shoot or the tree and its fruit. The vegetative powers of growth is a divine faculty that enables physical growth to result from a spiritual property in a manner of creation ex nihilo, something from nothing. But if the actual growth of any grain or fruit results from the universal power of vegetative growth and not from a particular seed or kernel, then why plant them in the first place? If this is the vegetative growth that makes it grow, not this kernel, so why do you need to plant at all? Let the vegetative growth grow whatever. The answer is, the Alter Rebbe explains that the seed that you plant enables and triggers that power to grow what it needs to grow. Says the Alter Rebbe, רק שאינו מוציא מגלה כוחו לחוץ מהכוח אל הפועל, כי אם על ידי הזרע והגרעין. It is only that the earth's vegetative powers does not manifest its power outwardly from the potential to actual, except by means of the seed and the kernel. It says what happens is, that they are decayed in the soil, and whose whole power, the power of growth, that originated in the earth's vegetative property, that was implanted in them as they grew, this has been consumed by the vegetative property in the soil. So that they unite and become one. Meaning, the particular power of growth that resulted in the seed or kernel unites with the earth's universal vegetative property. So you have this unification of these two, and that brings about the growth of this particular kind of growth, a vegetable, a fruit. In this way, the vegetative property actualizes its potential and diffuses vitality that makes possible the growth of a shoot that is related to the seed that was sown. However, it doesn't grow just what you planted, it grows much more. Quantitatively, much greater. Though with a very great increase in any single shoot. That one ear of corn comprises many grains. Then likewise, there are many fruits in a single tree. Not only that, it says in the case of the fruit, it's not only quantitatively greater, but also qualitatively greater. Moreover, it says the very nature and essence of the fruit immensely excels the nature and essence of the planted kernel, in that the bland and tasteless kernel serves as a source of delicious fruits. And the same thing is also true in vegetables. The same is true also of produce of the earth, which grows from seeds, just like kernels such as cucumbers and the like. Thus, it says fruits and vegetables are not only quantitatively superior to the kernel, that serves as their respective source, but are qualitatively superior as well. The difference between grain and its original seed, however, is only one of quantity. All this is so because the stem and root of the vitality of the fruits issues from the vegetative property in the soil. And that property is a very general property, which includes the vitality of all fruits and causes them to grow. Nevertheless, a kernel, moreover, the kernel of a specific species, desired, must be sown as is now explained. It says, what happens when you sow this particular seed? It triggers an arousal from below. The recipient triggers the arousal from above. When the kernels that are sown in the ground are only like an arousal from below that is necessary if one is to elicit a reciprocal arousal from above. This arousal from below, being referred to in the writings of the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luya of blessed memory, he calls it as the elevation of Mayim Nukvim. Mayim Nukvim means the arousal of feminine waters that serves as the recipient of the flux of the male waters. The same applies here as well. The power of vegetative growth is a spiritual power that encompasses all fruits and vegetables. Its spiritual state is such that it is far too lofty to descend spontaneously to a level at which it can make a physical produce grow. The actual growth can only come about as a result of the elevation of the feminine waters of a particular fruit and grain. This arouses within the universal vegetative property the particular manifestation necessary for the growth of the specific kind of produce that is inherent in the kernel or seed that is sown. This is how the Rebbe gives us a scientific agricultural lesson here. But here, the Rebbe, of course, is going to explain, we're going to continue tomorrow, as the same thing applies when we give tzedakah. That we'll see you tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.